Today we're reading Dreaming of Superhumans, the new reactionary Nietzschean fantasies by the Harvard Divinity Bulletin by Nicholas E. Lowe about a year and a half ago, summer 2024. Word is spreading. A new class of reactionary thinkers are dreaming big. Nietzschean dreams. Dreams of the superhuman. Friedrich Nietzsche's thought has a long and sordid relationship with right-wing political movements. Most notorious is the Nazis' adoption of the misanthropic iconoclast. As their philosophical mascot. But reactionary groups have been fond of claiming Nietzsche's legacy ever since his death in 1900. But the last decade has seen a new cohort of reactionaries appear on the political and cultural scene. And while certain elements of their Nietzschean dreams are all too familiar, their dreams of the superhuman are dressed up in decisively 21st century pageantry. At the heart of Nietzschean thought is his vision of Übermensch, a term best translated as superhuman, a higher species or form of life that, according to Nietzsche, modern humans should strive to produce. The Nazis, of course, had their own racialized Aryan vision of superhumanity. One they tried to actualize in the ruinous marriage of eugenics and industrialized genocide. This association has, understandably, cast a pall of suspicion on Nietzschean superhumanism and has led generations of philosophers to discount the centrality of the idea within Nietzsche's thought. But despite this leeriness, the new class of reactionary Nietzscheans are exploring new superhuman fantasies with gusto, and people are tuning in. I say, new class of reactionary Nietzscheans, though in reality there are several more or less distinct strains within this trend. Perhaps this reflects more of a nebulous turn in pseudo-Nietzscheans, a nascent sensibility rather than a movement with clear delineated boundaries. However, certain elements of this sensibility are crystallizing into more well-defined ideologies, and two in particular have placed visions of superhumanity at the heart of their messages. First is the effective accelerationists movement, or EAC for short. EAC has recently gained traction in the mainstream tech world, but its roots lie in the neo-reactionary thinking of Nick Land and Curtis Yarvin, aka Mencius Moldbug. EAC is a rejoinder of effective altruism, a philosophy that preaches caution and regulation in the tech industry, especially regarding the development of artificial intelligences. Accelerationists argue that this cautious mindset hamstrings the awesome potential of new technologies. By regulating and slowing technological acceleration, we deprive millions of people of the virtual benefit that they would already be enjoying if tech were allowed to evolve unimpeded. The second strain is based in the mimetic creations of online provocateur Bronze Age pervert, a pastiche of Nietzsche-like parables, trollish social media posts, and images of muscular young men. BAP's persona has generated a diffuse following of devoted internet trolls, military personnel, edgy academics, politicians, and even a number of aides from the Trump White House, who have been effectively dubbed BAPists. BAP's impious brand of pseudo-philosophy is more bluntly chauvinistic than anything coming out of the EAC sphere. The accelerationist camp is represented by tech bros and venture capitalists, a crowd that trades in glossy veneers and marketable slogans. BAP and his epigones?
Epigones.
I don't know that word. Epigones. A less distinguished follower of someone, especially an artist or philosopher. Okay. Epigone. BAP and his epigones do away with such pretense. BAP's self-published Bronze Age mindset is rife with a brand of racism and misogyny that would have made Nietzsche blanch. Again, blanch, what the fuck? And he relishes denouncing the third world, and its yeast-like zombie inhabitants. Larger-than-life bigotry is very much BAP's brand. These two strains of pseudo-Nietzschean thought are by no means the same. There are points of contact between them, not least Yarvin's apparent enthusiasm for BAP, but they have two important features in common. First, they have both generated modest but real and growing followings. Readers and enthusiasts who see them as sneaking truth to liberal power, to cameralists, forms of government, to effeminate wokeness, and so on. Second, both EAC and Bapism also enshrine visions of superhumanity at the heart of their worldviews. Both revolve around outlandish dreams of superhuman life, and this, I contend, is part of what makes these worldviews powerful. It would be all too easy to dismiss this overtly fantastical elements of EAC and Bapism as either pure science fiction or as rhetorical hyperbole meant to amplify what are in truth political messages. But analyzing these movements as purely political and as appealing to their followers on purely political grounds misses a crucial dimension of their essence and appeal. The purveyors of these new superhuman dreams aren't only offering solutions to political problems. They are speaking to a much deeper form of nihilism, a deeper dissatisfaction with merely human life. This situates them in the wake of Nietzsche's superhumanism, but also makes them recognizable within a broader contemporary cultural fascination. We are obsessed with superhumans. In fears and fantasies about AI, the rise of gleaming cinematic universes, peopled with powerful mutants and superheroes, and even in academic discourses of trans and post-humanisms, visions of superhumanity is abound, and these new reactionaries aren't alone in dreaming of the superhuman. Nietzsche should be recognized as the original modern prophet of superhumanity. The strongest presentation of his Übermensch ideal comes in his 1884 work, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, a book for all and for none. Zarathustra is, first and foremost, a weird book. The plot follows the itinerant teacher Zarathustra as he leaves his cave, wanders through towns, climbs over mountain ranges, crosses seas and oceans to the blessed isles, and then retraces his steps all the way back to his cave. He encounters jesters, hermits, a whole host of animals, and even a wine-drunk ass. He has visions of butterflies the size of children, sees a phantom version of himself flying through the sky, and experiences myriad mystical visions. In other words, the text is a colorful panoply of genre, image, and lyricism, by no means a run-of-the-mill philosophical treatise. At the core of the book is Zarathustra's longing to create a superhuman form of life. In his first foray in the city, his first attempt to bring his teachings to human beings, his first words are, "I teach you the superhuman. Human being is something that must be overcome. What have you done to overcome it?" Though Zarathustra's style of teaching changes dramatically throughout the work, these remain the central questions. Can humanity be overcome? And what new forms of life might such an overcoming give birth to? Zarathustra describes humanity as a bridge to the superhuman, as the clouds from which superhuman lightning will strike, and as a ladder to a higher form of life. Part of what humans must overcome, then, is anthropocentrism, and the feeling that we are somehow the pinnacle of evolution. Zarathustra teaches that we should by no means feel satisfied with our current forms of life, either socially, culturally, or indeed physiologically. Instead, we should think about these current human forms as preparatory conditions to produce something else. Humanity is like the tension in a drawn bowstring, and the superhuman is the target of its arrow. Perhaps most challengingly, this call to overcome humanity questions our commitment to the value of self-preservation. Zarathustra teaches repeatedly that humanity must indeed go under, in German, untergehen, means to sink or to set like the sun, but also to perish or drown, suggesting that rather than seek to preserve itself, humanity should embrace self-sacrifice for the sake of superhumanity. I love those who sacrifice themselves for the earth, and so that the earth may one day become the superhumans. I love the one whose soul squanders itself, for he always gives and does not want to preserve himself. I love those who do not want to preserve themselves, those who are going under Utergen. I love with my whole love, because they are going over. Zarathustra loves those who desire to go under, because it is only through self-sacrifice that humans can produce the conditions that will allow superhumanity to appear. In that sense, the desire to preserve humanity is preventing us from achieving the superhuman. We are selfishly hoarding vital energy and, in doing so, refusing to acknowledge that we are merely a stepping stone on the way to the superhuman, just one stage within the broader economy of life and growth. Zarathustra calls on humanity to recognize its place within the cosmic flows of life, and to embrace self-sacrifice so that life's creative energy can give rise to new superhuman beings. This superhuman project is too often smoothed over or ignored in academic readings of Nietzsche, I suspect in part because of its startling radicality. But this is precisely the aspect of Nietzsche's thought that finds an afterlife in Iyak and in the writings of Bap. While scholars and philosophers have emphasized the more easily domesticated features of Nietzschean thought, these new pseudo-Nietzscheans have tapped directly into Nietzsche's superhuman aspirations, and people are listening in a way that they rarely do when scholars and philosophers speak.
Should we talk about it, or what?
I was thinking about just going through the whole thing and then talking about it, or do you want to talk about it now?
I don't know.
Let's see, how much more is there left? We're like halfway through.
Yeah, it's kind of a lot.
Yeah. I mean, okay, yeah. So I feel like there've been two parts so far. The first part is like explaining well, is just like, is in introducing Iyak and Bapism, and then the second part has been like talking about Nietzsche and thus spoke Zarathustra, and the desire to be superhuman, or to be which does, I guess, put a spotlight to what the humans 200 or 300 years from now might look like, right? Because I think we're also kind of seeing the birth of maybe not the birth of this, but at least with transgender people being like the start of something, of us attempting to like radically change our biology, and I think that assuming that technologies continue to progress in like genetics and just changing our bodies and this and that, I think that in the history books we'll see the transgenderism going on now as like the first few steps of quote unquote, I wouldn't really call it superhumanism, but of just like changing what we are. And I find it very understandable for people to be allergic to it. Well, I find it very understandable to be allergic to like the transgender stuff, but then sometime in the maybe not too distant future, maybe distant future, there will be breakthroughs in gene editing, and we'll be able to do things that are like really cool. For example, maybe we'll be able to I don't know, to change our skin color, and fuck it, I can have like a little, well, it can be like a chameleon, right? I can just turn my skin red like these lights or what have you. I might be able to breathe underwater or hold my breath for very long periods of time. or maybe I might be able to have a really augmented type of eyesight. And there's going to be a conversation that maybe we'll have with our grandkids, or maybe our grandkids will have with their grandkids, about the ethics of changing your biology. And in those conversations, there will be some smart Alex that try to quote Bap and Nietzsche and Iac. So that's the landscape that I see this article presenting us.
Yeah.
How do you feel about I guess about the desire to be a superhuman and the desire to change our biology?
Yeah.
Try not to say the N word too much.
So I am not a fan of the EAC movement whatsoever. They are extremely reckless in their analysis of thinking that accelerating the evolution of technology and technological capacity is a good thing, always. That is a very, very, very harmful thought process to take. There's many examples where that has backfired a lot. And we can talk about those maybe, but to keep going, to keep it a bit general at the moment. In the EAC movement, they are trying to do biological longevity, meaning they're trying to accelerate medicine, longevity stuff.
Yeah, and who doesn't want to live to 120?
Even right. Even changing from carbon-based biology to silicon-based biology. And it's like, yeah, makes sense, sure. Like silicon's more this, that, and the other. It's got 4 valence electrons, just like carbon. It can do similar things to carbon based on that fact and some other stuff. So it's like, yeah, it makes sense. Elon Musk says carbon was the bootloader for silicon, where silicon-based life, probably he and other people say is part of the superhuman life or on way to the superhuman life. And that carbon was a step below the superhuman life in the evolution towards the superhuman. But if we suggest that we came from evolution over millions and billions of years or whatever, there was no intermingling of the organisms with their own evolution in the way that we're trying to do that now. Of course, they had interactions with their environment, and they made tools eventually, and they made niches, and they figured out how to get resources better. But this is a very different thing that we're going on right now. We're talking about changing, in some cases, the substrate that made us over those billions of years of evolution. Mm-hmm. And so, in fact, it doesn't make much logical sense to think that we can do anything to get to the superhuman. In fact, if they're going to use this evolutionary thing, that we're one step in evolution to the superhuman, and we're just an intermediate step, then honestly, the best thing to do actually is to do nothing. Mm-hmm. We should not, because that would be allowing evolution to continue its path. But we're mingling with it so much. We've changed the environment so much. That the superhuman teleology that might have been, that you could argue is a theory that evolution is going towards some higher form of life and that we're an intermediary. Well, we're completely messing up that process.
How so?
Because because that process is on carbon. In the silicon case,
yeah,
that process whole runs in carbon.
But that's like
not silicon.
Yeah. Well, okay, I don't have any comments about like the carbon versus silicon-based life forms, but I do have comments about I think that you can say like we shouldn't do it, right? But like it's gonna happen, right? And that just is like the will um of humans, right? And at the same time you can opt out in the same way that the and I don't mean to belittle your position with this analogy, but like I'm sure that many humans will opt out of it in the same way that like the Amish have opted out of electricity, and like more power to them. Like the Amish are like extremely happy people. They're happier than us, you know. But
Yeah.
but there isn't. But like it's gonna happen. Like if it's
I don't think so.
possible, if it's possible, it's gonna happen.
I see your point, but I don't agree.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So like
like human, what it means to be human. Like, if we're an intermediate step in the superhuman,
mm-hmm.
I don't see how. And basically, the whole thing with silicon, one of it is just uploading ourselves to computers that
Yeah.
we somehow manage to continue running indefinitely, which has all sorts of problems in it. But which they say, oh, those problems that make what we're doing seem impossible, we're just going to solve those because like that's what we've always done.
Mm.
And it's like, yeah, you might be able to solve it eventually, but like we're just going to kill ourselves in the process.
Mm.
Because all it takes is one time of technology not solving an issue in this current day and age, and we're extinct, actually. Because the power of the technology that we have is absurd. Not even to mention nukes that aren't even really related to the biological stuff. That's just other technology that can, one push of a button from one person, whether it be the U.S. president who holds the football, and everything's done. Not to mention all the other technology that is coming about. So no, I don't. It means something to be human, and the superhuman thing is essentially they're trying to make us into computers that can live forever, and that's not what it means to be a human.
Yeah.
So again, yeah, people want to live forever. That's sure. But I see it in the way that we were saying last night. That I feel like that's like that's not how we're supposed to live. You have to take into account the origin of life. Why did evolution occur in the first place? How did it start? And so if you're not asking those questions at all at any point, then you're liable to just say, yeah, we can just evolve ourselves. When that's not what evolution was about. I mean, whatever, but
Let's move on.
well,
Yeah.
I don't really think we reached any sort of anything there.
I mean, we kind of digested the first part of the article.
I mean, I think it's a really important. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Well, then yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think to put it another way, the acceleration of technology and optimizing for that. I mean, so technology takes energy. It takes coal and minerals and all this oil and this, that, and the other. Silicon stuff that come from who knows what, I forget. That all has to be taken from the earth. And the earth is not infinite.
Mm.
The earth has a finite amount of materials and energy, including that which we can do for food and water and stuff. And so if you're just optimized for all this technology that needs more and more and more energy, which is AI right now, needs more and more energy, at some point we're just gonna we're gonna kill ourselves. We're gonna take all the stuff from the earth in pursuit of this stuff, and then we're not gonna have enough food.
Yeah, I'm kind of skeptical about that. I think we're gonna figure out a way to innovate.
Yeah, because sure. Because when we go to Silicon, then we're not gonna have to have food. But then it's like, well, where does the electricity for all that stuff come from? And by the way, I mean, you really think they're gonna let everybody in on that?
Mm.
I mean, this is one big power game to get society on board with thinking that investing in these companies is good for them for some reason or another. But all that does is that's actually harmful to them. They're giving money to the thing that they're likely not going to have any part of. Same thing with like mining asteroids and mining Mars. You really think more than like 100 people, 1,000 people are actually going to get the benefit of all this?
Mm.
Everybody else is just going to get left behind.
Yeah, and so since other people are gonna get left behind, we should make it so that they can't do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, dude, what do you mean? Yeah, I don't want some guy taking all my food because he wants to be a robot that lives forever.
Yeah.
I think that's bad.
Okay. I mean,
What gives him the right? Just because he was born and his dad had a lot of money, so he's able to do all this stuff?
I mean, yeah, I don't think you should deprive you of food.
Like,
that's true.
Like all the people doing this likely don't even have like superior anything. Like even though they're the ones claiming that they're superior genes and they're superior this, most of these guys don't even have it. They were born into the cultural system that gave them the current value of the time, which is money right now. But put them 1,000 years ago where they'd have to earn their work but with a sword or a battle axe, as BAP and like Nietzsche would not be a fan of these guys, in fact. Because everybody knows the aristocrat back in the day, not everybody knows this, but the true aristocrat did not become an aristocrat because he had money. He didn't become a higher class person because he had money. He became a high class person back in the day because he was a good fighter. In which case, there's all those other physical qualities that you have to have.
I think it was also because of blood.
Absolutely.
But also,
if your dad was a big boy,
I agree
and you're going to be a big boy, that's going to help you a lot in the battle.
I agree that they shouldn't take away your food in pursuit of becoming silicon based. I just question they're going to take away your food.
They're already taking away property and land.
Mm.
Go ahead and try to buy a house nowadays. You can't do it. You surely can rent. You can surely rent a house. You can't own it though. You can't do it. So what's next? They're gonna charge us rent on the chickens, on the eggs, on the milk. I mean, this is a scam.
It's like the next step.
This is a scam because, by the way, anyone who's not in this small group, they see as being inferior. But they're only in that group because they have money. So how do we get to equating money with the superhuman? They're claiming that they can be the superhuman because they have money right now. When most of them probably didn't really earn that money anyway.
All right, let's keep on reading.
Yeah, sure.
All right, venture capitalist Mark Andreessen, responsible for the money behind Netscape and Twitter, has recently proclaimed himself a spokesman for the EAC movement in his techno-optimist manifesto. The rambling text centers an extended citation of Nietzsche's Zarathustra. In a section called The Enemy, Andreessen names Nietzsche's last men as that which accelerationism must overcome.
Right.
He links the thought of the last man, the form of human life that seeks to preserve itself at any cost, with those who would slow the untrampled development of technological progress.
Yeah, but
we believe these captured people are suffering from resentment, a witch's brew of resentment, bitterness and rage that is causing them to hold mistaken values that are damaging to both themselves and the people they care about.
This is a complete racket. This is a complete scam.
Andreessen has been perusing or perhaps skimming Nietzsche, aside from quoting Zarathustra and co-opting his last men. He also deploys resentment as one of Nietzsche's cherished terms. Andreessen overlays Nietzschean language on contemporary debates about technology and capitalism, suggesting that liberal/leftist desires for tech regulation and progressive social policies are contemporary expressions of nihilism. Under a bold heading that reads, Becoming Technological Supermen, Andreessen writes, we believe in deliberately and systematically transforming ourselves into the kind of people who can advance technology. What such a systematic transformation would entail remains vague, but the message is clear enough. Unleash the Ubermensch tech bros. Thus spoke Andreessen.
This is what I'm saying. They're saying their small group is the one are trying to become superhumans, and everyone else is preventing them. And even if we let them, though, we're not. They're still. It's not going to work. First of all, but they think that when it does work, all the other ones are going to get left behind because they're inferior.
There are subtler connections to Nietzsche's thought haunting Andreessen's manifesto, and not only in his semi-literary attempts at aphoristic style. Apart from Nietzsche, Andreessen also conscripts rogue British philosopher Nick Land into his vision. One way to think about Land is as offering Nietzsche plus 80s sci-fi, Ubermensch affixed with cybernetic implants and mingling with Terminators, neuromancers, and the like. But this also means Nietzsche minus naturalism, and produces a picture in which visions of superhumanity unfold in distinctly technological and capitalistic terms. This sci-fi technoscape suits Andreessen's purpose as well. Combine technology and markets and you get what Nick Land has termed the techno-capital machine, the engine of perpetual material creation, growth, and abundance. We believe the techno-capital machine of markets and innovation never ends, but instead spirals continuously upward. Rather than recognizing our immersion in a vital force called life, as in Zarathustra, Andreessen calls humans to acknowledge their participation within irresistible market-driven forces powered by the techno-capital machine. Like Zarathustra's life, surrendering ourselves to these forces is elevating and transformative, leading magically and inevitably upward. But upward towards what?
Right.
Andreessen's answer to this question is toward ever more growth and prosperity for humans. We believe the techno-capital machine is not anti-human. In fact, it may be the most pro-human thing there is. It serves us. The techno-capital machine works for us.
We should read this manifesto.
All the machines work for us. The upward spiral of the machine leads to a runaway growth pattern of intelligence.
Who is us?
And potentially to a symbiosis between human and artificial intelligence. We believe intelligence is an upward spiral, as people form symbiotic relationships with machines into new cybernetic systems, such as companies and networks, as artificial intelligence ramps up the capabilities of our machines and ourselves. There is a vision of superhumanity on offer here. Cybernetic fusion between human and machine, but one in which the machines and their intelligence are made safely subservient to human liberation. We believe technology is liberatory?
Yeah.
Liberatory of human potential. Liberatory of the human soul, the human spirit. In other words, the techno-capital machine spirals upward towards a utopia in which every human being can benefit maximally from technological and material advances.
Right.
Liberation through limitless commodification, the human soul as the apotheosis of the worker-consumer. Andreessen ensures us that the rise of technological supermen will be good for everybody, good for humanity, thus techno-optimism. But what keeps this soul, this liberated spirit, tethered to the human?
Yep.
Drawing back the curtain, it turns out that Nick Land's superhumanism is, well, much less human than Andreessen's. In Fanged Noumena, Land describes capitalism promoting the migration of thought away from organic human forms of life. The high road to thinking no longer passes through a deepening of human cognition, but rather through a becoming inhuman of cognition. Human brains are to thinking what medieval villages are to engineering, antechambers of experimentation, cramped and parochial places to be. For Land, the upward spiral of capitalist forces expands thinking and sentience, but separates them from the human brain and body. Culture itself is dissolved into dehumanized landscapes. In this vision of overcoming, humanity recedes like a loathsome dream. For Land, and in this respect, he is much closer to Nietzsche than to Andreessen. Humanity is a problem, a horrifying nightmare from which we, or something, must soon wake. Andreessen says he is selling a safe, user-friendly software, but it contains a virus, one that openly plots human extinction.
Yep.
Bronze Age pervert, the alter ego of Kostin Alamaru, who holds a PhD in political science from Yale University, is a different beast. Bap is much more the polemic trickster, a tongue-in-cheek internet troll who blends Nietzschean invective with 4chan sensibilities. The pure garishness of the performance is difficult to see around. Lurid social media posts and podcast rants are Bap's primary currencies. And in that sense, he superficially resembles other denizens of the internet manosphere, peddling bizarre conspiracies and visions of liberated masculinity. However, behind this collage of glistering pictorials and Trumpish pugilism, Bap constructs his own Gnostic prophecies of the coming transition to superhumanity. Within the first few pages of Bronze Age Mindset, Bap gets pretty weird. Life has a thing inside it that reaches beyond itself. This is intergalactic worm. I can't say here. You must wait. But if you don't reach beyond yourself, you are dead. Most of mankind is the walking dead. Bap sporadically writes in a faux Russian accent, dropping articles and ignoring typical grammatical conventions. Given the in-your-face outrageousness of Bap's style, it seems reasonable to think that claims of this sort, that life is inhabited by an intergalactic worm, are just part of the act. Certainly, the more trad conservatives who pay attention to Bap mostly ignore the weirdness in favor of the potential political energy he generates. In a review of Bronze Age Mindset, former Trump staffer Michael Anton only hesitates for a moment over Bap's staggering racism and misogyny before praising the potency of his critique of the ways in which equality is propagandized and imposed in our day. And he claims that the book is important because it speaks directly to a youthful dissatisfaction, especially among white males, with the propagandized form of equality. In the Catholic New Oxford Review, James Noel Ward echoes Anton's barely begrudged envy. In a word, Bap is winning converts while our seminaries are empty. Catholics are doing something wrong. Anton agrees with this appraisal. In the spiritual war for the hearts and minds of the disaffected youth on the right, conservatism is losing and Bapism is winning. The irony of such praise is that Bap readily admits that he appeals to the normie political sphere. The irony of such praise is that Bap readily admits that his appeals to the normie political sphere are made in bad faith. The trolling and political messaging is a cover, a rhetorical Trojan horse to smuggle in his metaphysical vision of the superhuman. The book is rife with blatant metaphysical assertions that energy has an inner intelligence that seeks the production of one's supreme specimen, that the gods that surely exist but remain hidden have the most beautiful bodies we can imagine, that beautiful youths represent a force with a plan and design, beyond human comprehension, that the Bronze Age way is an exalted psychosis that readers can learn to cultivate, that telepathy is public and mythical version of something real, and that Bronze Age mindset was to be worshipped as a god. These are just a few examples. Toward the end of the book, Bap gives his cagier readers a word of pragmatic advice. Those of you who choose this path, if you like this book or the other things I say, should denounce it and disavow me if ever asked about it, and denounce also all other crazy ideas. The goal of the book is to subtly disseminate the seeds of the superhuman vision. The crazy ideas are too weird for normie politics, and so must be cleverly disguised. But they are very much to the point. Bap recommends that his fans join the military or imitate figures like Trump or Viktor Orban, but only as a parody, an acceptable public persona. I've written this book, however, because this may not satisfy some of us, and I wanted to talk about the world in the coming decades and what paths may open for a different way. BAP's different way is, like that of EAC, a dark vision of superhuman life. These superhuman dreams turn out to be nightmares. The prospects of mutant AI existence within the unrestrained dominion of the techno-capital machine, or of the rise to power of Aryan weightlifting gym gods, project equally queasy mixtures of Lovecraftian horror and bad acid trip paranoia. Those seeking to harness these visions to their political projects, Andreessen, Anton, and the like, downplay these nightmarish, hallucinatory elements and domesticate the superhuman to something acceptably bourgeois, something more recognizably human. Come on in. The water is fine. The virus is well disguised.
Yeah, good.
Like the would-be trad quarters of these movements, left-leaning critics have also generally failed to account for their viral superhumanism. In characterizing this broadly reactionary Nietzschean brand, Ezra Klein identifies its appeal in cultural and political terms. This is not a coalition that cares about tax cuts. It's a coalition obsessed with where we went wrong. The weakness, the political correctness, the liberalism, the trigger warnings, the smug elites. It's a coalition that believes we were once hard and have become soft. Worse, we have come to lionize softness and punish hardness. Klein's assessment basically agrees with Anton's. The energy in this movement, whether you approve of it or not, comes from its politics of strength, appeal to a population of mostly men that resent the woke establishment and its doctrines of softness. What folks like Andreessen and BAP are offering is therefore a return to a more muscular, masculine culture, a return to a Bronze Age mindset that prizes warrior values and sneers of effeminacy, democracy, and egalitarianism. And surely this diagnosis is correct as far as it goes. The appeal of these movements, as well as their danger, has undeniable political and cultural dimensions that shouldn't be ignored, especially their virulent racism and misogyny. However, I suspect that the peculiar appeal of the EAC movement and Bapism comes from the fact that they respond to a deeper sense of alienation. Both speak to a form of nihilism that predates contemporary political questions by centuries, one that Nietzsche diagnosed in his own era and that Zarathustra was meant to counteract, namely, a sense that humanity and its forms of life were nearing a point of exhaustion. In his day, Nietzsche criticized socialism, democracy, and Christianity on political grounds, and he identified in such politics profound cultural problems. However, the fundamental problem for Nietzsche lay at the level of human, all too human, life, and his solution to the problem was to imagine humanity's self-overcoming. Thinkers like Bap and Land operate within this aspect of Nietzsche's legacy. Political and social issues are for them symptoms of ontological alienation, and their remedies are therefore ontological transformations. Humanity is doomed. Make way for the superhuman. Understanding this helps us properly diagnose the virulence of these new strains of Nietzscheanism, but also to imagine what sort of immunological response they demand. In his insightful piece for The Atlantic, Graham Wood, a childhood acquaintance of Bap, suggests that Bap reflects a viral incursion of Nietzschean philosophy into the liberal immune system. Bap's thought is a gnarly virus that had lain dormant for decades in circles of philosophers and their unread books. Now that it's loose in the human population, it is a vicious kick to the liberal immune system. And that is not entirely bad. Unchallenged, liberalism's defense waned, and liberals forgot, temporarily, why their cause was worth defending. The antibodies are stirring. Wood also identifies Bap's superhumanism as a central, though overlooked feature of his thought. Wood sees that the breeding of a caste of supermen is not just a pseudo-comic reverie, that Bap's belief in metempsychosis seems genuine, and he argues that to treat BAP as just another political shock jock would risk ignoring his heartfelt commitment to the reality of these ideas. In effect, Wood sees the virus of the Baptist superhumanity, and we can safely assimilate EAC to his assessment as a threat to liberalism. And of course it is. Bap, Land, Yarvin, and Andreessen are all as staunchly anti-liberal as Nietzsche himself. However, I wonder whether the stirring of antibodies of liberalism on their own are up to the immunological task of neutralizing this superhuman virus. It is possible that Nietzsche was right, that human forms of life are waning or changing, and that superhuman forms of life will begin, or have already begun, to emerge. Our cultural fascination with superhumanity, whether in the form of cinematic mutants, aliens, and UAPs, artificial intelligences, and transhumanisms, suggests that this particular superhuman virus may represent a dissatisfaction with more than political or philosophical liberalism. Perhaps, rather than a reaffirmed commitment to the liberal tradition, it will require a competing vision of the superhuman, or even real superhumans, to do battle with the pseudo-Nietzschean nightmares lurking on the horizon. At the very least, we should not let these nightmares dissuade us from dreaming our own different superhuman dreams, especially ones that elevate those other too often overlooked Nietzschean ideals of joy, laughter, and love.
Yep.
All right, that was good stuff. I'm gonna take a piss break real quick.
Yeah.
But that was very good stuff.
Yeah.
That was well written. Good job, Nicholas Lowe.
Yeah, that was good. I agree with him completely. Actually, I don't know, but I agree with a lot of what he said. Yeah.
Yeah, I it's weird because I also want to I'm definitely not an anti-liberal. I think the liberalism is good generally, but I also understand the appeal of Andreessen and Bap in a way. Anyways, I'll be back.
Can I like skim through the article again?
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the
yeah.
thing? Yeah. 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 Interesting mouse. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what this advancement. Everybody's so caught up in the advancement of technology, but they never admit all the stuff that has gone wrong in pursuit of this advancement. I mean, Facebook was cool, you know. Social media is cool, right? Like, the internet is cool. What an amazing technology. You can talk to somebody in China or Brazil in a matter of seconds. There's satellites in the sky, in space. That's pretty cool. But look at all of the, what about all the negative aspects? What about that? If you sum total all of the benefits and all of the negative impacts of the technology, I mean, the technology itself could be advanced, but it seems as though we're not advancing humanity, actually.
I like how he mixed in Bap as well as Andreessen. I'm kind of at a crossroads here where I wouldn't consider. I'm definitely a I think that liberalism is like a good, right? It's
What does liberalism mean?
yeah. So it means like
You want to just Google it?
yeah, but I guess like it means like general like freedom of speech, freedom of association. Like it's like part of like democracy is generally good. That it's like it's a political and ethical framework for society to work in. Liberalism is a political philosophy centered on individual liberty, rights such as speech, religion, and assembly, consent of the governed, equality, and limited government. Yeah, and that like generally, I'm pro individual liberty. I'm pro rights. I'm pro consent of the governed. I'm pro equality. I'm pro limited government. Um, but then there's also been as I'm sure we both feel, a corruption of liberalism in like modern day like culturally leftist things, such as like having like nonstop like illegal immigration here, or having like discussions about uh, like like transgender stuff being like put forefront in like our algorithms, and then like and then like politicians like not like repudiating it but actually using it as a way to gain cultural clout. And those are aspects of of I guess like fringe to mainstream ideas in liberalism that I don't like at all. But like don't what's the saying, like don't throw the baby out with the bathwater,
Yeah.
right? Like it's like just because I don't like the like having a lot of illegal immigration or the like training stuff doesn't mean that like all liberalism should go, right? Like I'm not.
I think trannies are cool people, dude.
Yeah.
You don't like trannies?
I mean, I've met like one or two, and like they seem okay.
Yeah.
They
You go out for coffee with them?
I
or
feel
How'd you meet them?
they're just in class.
Oh, just in class?
Yeah. I don't really know them. It's not really about like them. It's more about like the way that like their identity is used for like political gain and for virtue signaling by the left. Like I think they're free to do whatever they want. It's just the virtue signaling that's this it's just annoying.
Yeah.
Um
So, yeah.
and yeah. So I'm saying I'm not anti-liberal. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I mean, how...
But
yeah.
then I like understand also how Andreessen and Bappism is like seductive in a way, especially Bappism. I with the like the aesthetics of it, the focus on like the personal will.
Yeah.
And just doing yeah. I like that. It's like sexy to me in a way.
Yeah.
But I'm also just like cautious around it because it is like out there. Yeah, and I see it also as like just like a form of like entertainment. Yeah.
So
and then with the Andreessen stuff that I'm a bit more unsettled around. I'm not like as allergic to it as I saw you were. But it is something to keep an eye out on, right? Because it does like kind of give the vibe of just there's just like going to be some like these like mutant robot species in like 30 years. They're just going to like enslave the rest of us, right? And obviously that's a bad thing.
We're already there, dude.
Yeah.
We're already there. Your social media algorithm is already enslaving you right now, and me, and everybody.
Yeah.
That's already happening. It's like, I wouldn't say I'm allergic to it. Anybody can say whatever they want. I'm a liberal in that sense too. I think freedom of speech is great. I'm not so sure about the other ones, to be honest, but I'm not against them. But there's some delicate factors that should be taken into account that we're not going to get into right now. But freedom of rights and rights or whatever is good. But
consent of the governed.
yeah, consent of the governed. That's been thrown out the window. I mean, there's
with the high levels of illegal immigration.
No, dude. Like
with what?
Like I didn't consent to like I didn't consent to the technology that affects my brain.
Yeah, but
I didn't consent to that. I didn't consent to being to being wrapped into 50 different addictions because that was the only thing I could choose. Anything I chose anything you choose is basically gonna make you addicted.
Yeah.
If you're not smart. And so when we talk about the individual will, it's like, okay, there's something to say that people can get their heads wrapped around certain ideas. Maybe when they're in a vulnerable place, they're going to latch on to an idea that helps them get through that hard time. And then that becomes who they are. In some cases, it might be you're very depressed, and then you realize that, hey, I'm a man, I have a penis, but, you know, actually, I kind of feel like a woman. And, like, that kind of solves some of my problems here. So, like, I guess I'm a woman or something like that. And, like, great. Like, you found a solution to dealing with some stuff, whatever it might be, physical, mental, whatever. But it's like those ideas didn't just pop into their head from space. Those ideas were propagated by various groups trying to propagate the truth and validity of those ideas. That's the only way nowadays. So in that sense, that was not really their personal will. That was an idea given to them that they latched onto. And it's the same thing with baptism. It's the same thing.
Yeah, but
there's
also
no personal
it's
will.
like
Baptism is giving them something that they can then say is their personal will when it's not theirs at all.
And I guess your argument would be that it's the technology of how those like memes or ideas are being communicated that you never consented to, and that's a problem.
Dude, yeah, I mean, even going into a restaurant and or going into public and hearing somebody else's phone or somebody else's conversation, that irks me a little bit because they're forcing me to listen to what they're listening to.
Yeah, but
and they're changing what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Look at social media, and it's this times a million.
But that's
you get
also
to control
part of
what
like
people think.
But like we're like it's not like I don't think you're advocating for like isolation, right? It's not what you're saying.
I'm saying the only way to actually get a personal will is to be in isolation. I want to make that distinction.
But that's not
it's not feasible. It's not practical.
And it's also
anything
like
else
barely,
is not your personal will.
And it's also like barely human, because I think it's within our nature to be social and to exist within a society.
Yeah.
To exist within like cultural memes that our society propagates. I think that that's like really a deep part of being a human is to be like here with you talking to you rather than like yeah.
Is it somebody's personal will when they reject the cultural memes that are given to them? Would that be a personal will?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think Bap is a troll, and he says a lot of stuff. Anderson is a troll times a million because he's doing it to get money. I'm not so sure Bap wants a lot of money, as opposed to just like do a shock factor, which like look. I'll be the first.
An aesthetic life, like an aesthetic extreme.
Well, we can get to an aesthetic life, which I also disagree with, but let me not get too excited here. I might need to pop another Zyn to calm me down. So look,
I think This is this what happens when you get a Coke Zero?
So look,
you really need that diet, bro.
Look, I get primal when I get those phenylketoallotroosics in my brain. No, so I'll be the first to say, like, there's many problems in society. Okay, there's many problems in society. I'll be the first to say it. And so what BAP may be trying to do is send a shock factor to people and say, look, we're thinking about some of these things in a bad way, is what he's maybe trying to say. But I guess really, and this is the same thing with technology. It's like you make this new technology, you come up with this new way of saying things, even though BAP is saying things people have been saying since the Bronze Age, apparently. You say these things, or you rebring these certain memes or ideas to the surface, or you make a new technology to the surface, and there's a shock factor. But the problem with shock factors is they only work if you actually have a second layer and a second stage to come in after you've broken everybody with the shock. If you just have the shock, you just break everybody down, and like basically that goes to a state of dystopia. Because, and I mean, maybe, so that's kind of an outlandish statement to make, but...
Can I ask you a question? Once you're finished.
I was saying with technology, like we come up with this AI and it's like a huge shock factor, but like we don't really know all the ramifications, and we certainly don't have solutions to all the ramifications, especially the ones we haven't even thought of. There's all the stuff about AI is going to kill us all. That's like it's a common one, sure. Like I don't think that's going to happen, but the slave thing of the people who have the AI, and if you have control and the power of the AI, you can do literally any task better than anybody else. You can optimize better than anybody else, whether it's war, social media, psychological warfare. You can literally do everything better because you have it's a machine. It can do the math better than any human. Nobody's denying it can do math better than a human. But that AI doesn't have emotions. That AI doesn't have sympathy, empathy. You're at the will of the people who have it, and if they don't have any empathy, they have the dark triad. Well, boom! Now you just created a magical machine. That's not magic. Powerful machine that also has a dark triad of traits. And you're like, oh shit! Like.
Okay, so I have two questions for you.
Okay.
One of them is like kind of short, and one of them is a bit longer, right? So I hear you critiquing various things. They're understandable critiques, but I ask you. Well, first, my short question is, how much of a liberal are you? In this like short definition in this like short low resolution definition of liberalism here, liberalism is a political philosophy centered on individual liberty, rights such as speech, religion, and assembly, consent of the governed, equality, and limited government. Right. So let's just say that that's the definition.
Okay.
What do you? And again, this is a short question. What do you agree? What do you disagree? How much liberal are you?
I can be annoying and say I completely reject that as identifying as that, and any of the other parallel terms that come with it that are opposite or similar or whatever. I don't think it's the right way of looking at things. I think freedom of speech is very good. We have to be able to talk about ideas. Consent of the governed is fine, but also most people could care less. I think they don't. I think they want to be. They want to submit. And that's also
that's what BAP says. That I think where
I agree with
the
that.
masses want to submit, right?
But
also part of being a good citizen is to like actually like be thoughtful about what you consent to and about the culture, rather than living in like an urban monoculture where you're just like. Anyways, go on.
All right, I have two things. Yes,
yeah.
I see what you're saying. I agree. I very much understand that. We have to acknowledge that everybody needs to submit to something. Where's the camera?
Facts.
Everybody has to submit to something. Okay. If you're lucky, you get to choose what you submit to, and you're not just a born slave. Most people do not choose. And you're lucky if you're born into submission, whether it be, everybody is born into the submission of the society they were born into. The culture, cultural memes, the cultural habits, and your genes. You didn't choose those. You're born into those, and those affect your behavior, how you think, what you do, but particularly what you think. And so if you're lucky somehow to realize that some force is trying to submit your thought and thus if it submits your thought, it will very likely submit your behavior. If you base your behaviors off your thoughts, which I imagine most people do, if you're a human, or emotions, same thing. I mean, thoughts and emotions are different, but your brain state, whatever you want to call it. If you're lucky enough,
Where are you going?
if you're lucky enough to step out of that and see that what you're submitting to is not what you want to submit to, well, that's great. But now you have to choose. Yeah, you still have to choose something else to submit to, and if you don't, well, I guess you're claiming to be God or something.
But also,
which I would not recommend doing.
We should be able to choose what we submit to, and that's part of individual liberty.
Yeah, but
right?
but if you're gonna choose to submit something that's gonna mess up my well-being, I'm gonna fight against that because you shouldn't submit to something that interferes with somebody else's brain. Because with the AIs, it's like, or social media.
When
it's like,
when you say submitting to something, I like perceive it as like a religious community, right? Like being like what you know, like Anna before, right? Like being like a
the techno-optimists are submitting to technology.
Yeah.
They're idol-worshipping technology.
And Baptism is submitting to BAP, right? Or and at least like the masses.
It's idol
like an associate of mine, you know, we'll watch soccer, or excuse me, not soccer, football. He watch American football all day, every day, and so he kind of like submits to like that, like low form of entertainment, and
and that came.
My original question was like, how much of a liberal are you? Now, I hear that, you know, you think that freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly is important.
Okay, I know where it takes.
And also that, like, consent of the governed.
So,
and also individual liberty.
Yeah.
What about equality and limited government?
So let me touch one more on the individual rights. So I think it is very arrogant for people to assume that they know what's best for them. Mm-hmm. And when you give people individual rights and you say, just go do your thing, that's actually very harmful because pretty much everybody doesn't know what's best for them. And in fact,
that's why you submit to God.
That's why you submit to God. I mean, look, I'm not religious, but I acknowledge that there is creation. And if we take our logic to be sufficient for now, creation implies creator. It does not have to be personified. It doesn't have to be a person, an entity, just some sort of thing caused or something, the creation to come into be. So I respect that because that's about the craziest thing and most complex, intelligent thing that I can think of. I'm not talking about, again, it doesn't have to be personified. So that to me is what we should be submitting to, yes. But to go back,
how much of a liberal are you?
So BAP, I'm surprised that BAP doesn't understand this because this comes right from Socrates. Socrates says, look, you guys all think freedom to do what you want is the highest good, and freedom is the highest good, and individual rights is the highest good. But but if you truly, so to truly be good and to be in a state of well-being, if you're given the freedom to do what you want and to choose how to get there, the odds that you actually know what's good for you are very low and practically zero.
So that means you want theocracy.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, this whole freedom and individual, and I'm not saying equality is better than freedom, where you restrict freedom to make people more equal. I'm not saying that either. I'm just saying this is straight from Socrates. I think it's in the Gorgias, which if BAP actually wrote Selective Breeding and the Birth of Philosophy, I listened to it a bit. He uses Gorgias and Callicles as a main thing to base his ideas off of.
All right, so this perfectly goes into my second question that I was going to ask. It's a much bigger one, and of course you don't have to I don't expect a full answer now, but just, you know, I would like one in the coming days, which is you seem to be critical of various I guess like ideologies or just like, you know, thought architectures, such as like the EACs and Baptists, as well as some parts of liberalism.
Yeah.
But so, what would you advocate for? Because it's harder to advocate. Like it's much easier to critique something, and it's much harder to advocate for something.
I agree.
So what? And so I hear your critiques about parts of liberalism, as well as parts of Baptist and EACism.
Mm-hmm.
But let's forget about critiquing things. What would you? What's the word? What fucking word did I just use?
Advocate.
What would you advocate for?
What would I advocate for?
And again, it's a big question, right? I don't expect a full answer, but but bits and pieces of something.
I don't know. I think a short answer would be that I am very weary and cognizant of where information is coming from and what the information is communicating, obviously, but particularly where it's coming from. Because in this day and age, we get all of our information for the most part from the internet. And it's like you can go talk with people, but most of the stuff they get is also from the internet. I mean, you could read books and stuff too, I guess. But you don't get a there's no personal will in that. There's no honesty in that. The wisdom of 5,000 years had nothing to do with the internet. The Bronze Age wisdom had nothing to do with the internet. It had nothing to do with democratic politics that are consuming the majority of people's thought processes. It's all a racket. It's all a racket. They create the problem.
You're going to critiquing. I'm trying to get something out of advocating for.
I'm
instead of
advocating
doing
to
the
be
negative
aware.
things with positive things.
I don't have any
mean?
positive thing to say,
All
and
right.
I take this right from Socrates as well. He didn't have anything positive to say either. He had only negative postulates, and I think there's some wisdom in that. I don't claim. I have no idea.
Do you see yourself being able to advocate for something within the next few weeks, just as a thought experiment?
BAP advocates to be the animal in religious intoxication and religious psychosis. You're not so. I agree with that, but I think that has to do with anxiety. I would advocate that if you're feeling anxiety, the worst thing you can do is try to get rid of it. The best thing you can do is to integrate it and to think about it and be anxious. So yes, I advocate to be anxious. It is an adaptive quality that all of our ancestors had. They would not have survived otherwise. Everything about modern society can be boiled down, this is a critique for one moment, can be boiled down to how do you get rid of a person's anxiety, which also involves how do you make them feel pleasurable, because when you're feeling pleasurable, you're not going to feel anxiety. All of that stuff boils down to dampening and repressing somebody's anxiety. What that really means is if you do this, and you dampen your anxiety, you're dampening the most powerful thing you have. In fact, the superhuman is going to be quoted, Johnny. The superhuman is going to be somebody that can be anxious all of the time and do something about it. And not run away to his goddamn room and go look at Mia Khalifa's big titties. Okay? And masturbate. For all you guys masturbating, every now and then, I understand, it hurts your balls. I respect it. But that's very different than having it be a primary source of your behavior and of your life. Why don't you jot down how many times you jack off in a month? I would advocate for that. Why don't you jot that down?
All right.
Shayna?
Video over. No. Any parting words that don't last less than 1 minute?
Yeah. So let me try to bring us back here, folks.
All right.
Let me try to bring us back here. Let me get nice and cozy here. No, I'm just using this as a second to get my thoughts wrapped around.
But,
So yeah,
No.
so so part of the superhuman thing is to get rid of all these aspects of what it means to be human, and I think that is fundamentally false. To make a it would not be a superhuman. It would be, and maybe this is what they say or not. They're trying to create a new species, is what they're trying to do, and it's going to be so different than humans. It's a new species, and in a sense, that means getting rid of all the bad feelings, getting rid of anxiety, getting rid of this and that. So you should feel anxious. Do not trust anybody that claims to have a solution to anything. I would say get off the internet. Stop watching this video right now.
Get it in a church.
Stop watching this video right now. Go out and sit by a tree. Why are we? I mean,
All right, it's been a minute.
I mean, we're assuming that trees are less complex. I mean, or that plants are less complex, and it's like, look. Oh, you actually want to stop the video now?
Yeah.
Oh, you want to keep going?
We'll do another one.
Yeah. Well, let me really wrap it. Let me really say some final thoughts to wrap this down. No, seriously. So to conclude, be very weary about these new ideologies. If you want a personal will, you have to get that on your own. Again, go camping. Go be by yourself. When's the last time you've been by yourself for longer than, I don't know, fucking 5 minutes? You fucking Jesus was Joseph and Mary's son, who was the Immaculate Conception, because I'm not using that in a vulgar way. So yeah, dude. If you can't be by, all right, whatever.
Peace.